So Chanel has just launched 3 unisex fragrances in a collection of fragrances called Les Eaux collection. These 3 fragrances retail for $130 each in a 120 ml bottle. I'm going to tell you all about these 3 fragrances called Paris-Deauville, Paris-Biarritz, and Paris-Venise. Plus, I have one set of samples thanks to our lovely Chanel boutique here in San Francisco to give away to one lucky subscriber of this channel from the USA. So if you want to find out about these 3 fragrances, stick around. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. If this is your first time on this channel and you love watching fragrance reviews, finding out about new fragrances, discovering new brands, participating in giveaways, and still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And yes, 3 new fragrances were launched from a collection called Les Eaux collection by Chanel. The fragrances are in Eau De Toilette concentration. They are $130 for a 120 ml bottle, and the bottles are inspired by flasks. I like these bottles. They're simple and minimalistic, typical of Chanel's aesthetic of a fragrance bottle design. I really like that Chanel's fragrances, or the bottles for the fragrances, are very, very minimalistic. Simple white packaging, white boxes with the, the black trim lines and things like that. So I was very curious about these, especially for the fact that they are unisex fragrances. And what I liked about these fragrances is that because they're fresh, they're apparently inspired by 3 different cities. Of course, Deauville, which I've been to in France. So when I was visiting a city called Honfleur, it's a half hour approximately away from there. We spent a whole day there. It was really awesome. Another one is inspired by the city of Biarritz. These are cities that Coco Chanel has history in, and she apparently set up shop in Biarritz, which is in the south of France. It's Europe's surfing capital. So I actually have spent a few days in Biarritz as well. Both of these cities are coastal cities. And of course, Venice is in Italy, and apparently she had spent some time in Venice, and so this is also another coastal city. So everything around water in Les Eaux, it's about water, so everything is light and fluid and airy and all that kind of stuff. So they're very light fragrances, and that's why a lot of them are not too floral. They do have some floral notes in the fragrances, but since they are unisex, they just didn't make them like really intense floral fragrances, but you'll find neroli in here and things like that. So I want to tell you a little bit about these fragrances. I'm going to smell them on camera for you and just let you know, and perhaps you might be interested, because I find a few of them to be very easy for men to wear. One of them is a little more intense, not so fluid and watery like the previous 2. So the first one is Deauville. Coco Chanel has some history there. So this is Paris-Deauville. And so we have top notes of basil, orange, bergamot, lemon, lime, petitgrain. In the heart notes you have jasmine, rose, green notes, Hedione. And of course the base notes you have patchouli. Now I took these notes also from Fragrantica because Chanel's website only lists a few notes, and they could be true, that they only used a few notes, but I'm picking up a lot of other notes in these fragrances, so I decided to go with Fragrantica. And I know with Fragrantica they are not always 100% correct, so if you know a source for the correct notes, do let me know so that I will find them next time. So according to Chanel, they had only listed the basil for the Deauville fragrance and of course the orange. So I was like, you've got to have more notes than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this one, and we'll go ahead and get started with this one. So this one is Deauville, and again, Deauville is in the north of France, in the Normandy region. I believe it's Normandy. I know Honfleur was in Normandy, but again, I was very, very curious about these fragrances, especially since they're very light and airy, easy to wear citrus fragrances, perfectly timed for release in the summertime, because these are perfect in the summertime. And I was looking for these at some of the department stores and they didn't have them there, and I found out that they were Chanel boutique exclusives, but there will be sold in some department. One department store I think is getting an exclusive. They didn't really tell me who, sometime in the near future. But for now, you can only get these in the Chanel boutiques. So here with Deauville, Paris-Deauville, it's ultra fresh with that basil note. So the basil note kind of acts a bit woody, herbal, green. And I like that about this one. It starts off very fresh and herbal. So it also has this like underlying Chanel DNA. You can pick up some of that Chanel DNA, but it's very juicy and fruity, like the citrus fruits. It's pretty big. You've got a lot of citrus fruits at the top with that one herbal touch. Of course, the Petitgrain can actually also act a bit herbal as well, because it is the leaves after all. It acts a bit woody and green at the same time with the citrus touches. So it's ultra fresh. I guess in the heart you do pick up some floral notes, very green. And of course, it dries down to a patchouli base, like a woody patchouli base. I mean, it's not overly like wow, that kind of a fragrance. It's good citrus fragrance, but it's not like breaking any new ground. So I think what they're trying to do here, the perfumer is Olivier Polge. They're just basically trying to appeal to a lot of the masses. Like they're trying to like appeal to the masses because I think Chanel could be coming off as like an older, more mature woman, and also feminine. So they're not only trying to appeal to the younger generation, they're also trying to appeal to men, because these are unisex after all. So anyway, that's Paris-Deauville. Next is Paris-Biarritz. So Paris-Biarritz is in the south of France, and I've been there, as I said. Really love these two cities. I would love to go back. But Paris-Biarritz, at the top you've got bitter orange, grapefruit, bergamot, lemon, and orange. In the heart you got lily of the valley, neroli, green notes. In the base notes you got musk and patchouli. Now this is my favorite out of the three. Again, nothing groundbreaking. This reminds me of other citrus fragrances, other neroli fragrances, if that makes sense. So I would have ended up putting this in my citrus fragrances video or the neroli fragrances video, because I pick up both of those types of notes very like intensely here. And then also I think this is inspired by like your traditional eau de cologne, something a little more interesting that you're like 4711, that kind of a fragrance. So I really like this one a lot. I've been wearing it the most. My second favorite is Deauville, Paris-Deauville. But let me spray that one on. You do need a lot more sprays of this one because it is Eau De Toilette. But then again, you also have a 120 ml bottle, not your typical 100 ml bottle. So you do get a little more juice for $130. But this one is really, really uplifting and sparkly. And you start off bitter at the top. You got that bitter orange. You've got a little bit of a grapefruit because it has this like zinginess, the gingery kind of quality that grapefruit has. And then you got, it's spicy. And then bergamot and lemon and more orange comes through. In the heart is where you pick up the floral notes. You do have that lily of the valley and neroli. Neroli is, of course, orange blossom. And then you've got that green note. And then of course it dries down to a musky patchouli. What can go wrong with this one? This is absolutely beautiful. This is just really, really perfect. Nothing groundbreaking though, as I said. Just a in-your-face, awesome citrus freshy. Floral citrus freshy, I should say. So this one I highly recommend. Again, not breaking any grounds, but this one I recommend you check out. So that's Paris-Biarritz. Last but not least, we've got Paris-Venise. So this is inspired by Coco Chanel's time in Venice, Italy. So we had two inspired by cities in France, one inspired by a city in Italy. All three are cities on the water, and so they're all very water and fluid, according to Olivier Polge, who created these fragrances. So another thing I want to mention is if you ever go to, I think Chanel's YouTube account, they have some videos about these fragrances that are worth checking out if you're curious to check them out. But here what we've got are, this one's the most complex one actually also. It goes in a little bit of an oriental direction. So you've got at the top pink pepper, orange, bergamot, lemon, petitgrain. In the heart you've got neroli, iris, rose, geranium, ylang ylang. In the base notes you've got vanilla, tonka bean, benzoin, orris root, violet, and musk. So that's why I think it goes in kind of an oriental territory. This one I'm going to spray up higher because I don't have any space left, of course. But from my samplings, I do recall that this one does get vanillic and a little bit almondy, oriental, musky, and also resinous at the bottom. I think I read an article, not necessarily a reviewer, but just an article in a magazine, and they said this was the most feminine one. I can see why it could be feminine because it does have those warm gourmandy / oriental touches of the vanilla, also the resins. but I don't necessarily find it to be feminine. I think they're pretty gender neutral, all three of them. Again, none of these are breaking any ground. They're like great fragrances, but me smelling so many fragrances, these just are kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, Chanel's trying to do something to appeal to the masses, and they're just trying to have as much coverage of fragrances as they can, so that when somebody goes into a Chanel boutique or somewhere and they go in and they're not your typical Chanel demographic, they're going to be like, oh, that smells good, I am going to buy that one because that fits my style, rather than they go in and all they see is Chanel No. 5 and things like that, and it's a man, and a man's probably, your typical man is not going to want to wear Chanel No. 5. So these are kind of appealing to as much masses as they can so they can make money. Now I want to venture off into this little topic. Several months ago I received a notification on my phone, a news notification, that for the first time Chanel is unveiling and revealing how much profit they made in their whole entire history in existence. So for the first time they revealed how much money they made in 2017. Can you guess how much money they made in 2017? It is freaking, oh my god, I cannot believe it. Just a little under $10 billion. Chanel, as a privately held company, made just under $10 billion. So no wonder they're releasing, cranking out these fragrances, not necessarily anything groundbreaking types of fragrances, so they can just take all the money from us because people buy. And you know, you've got the name Chanel on here, so people want that. So going back to Paris-Venise, it is definitely warmer. You start out with the citruses at the top, but you already start picking up some notes that are like weightier, like heavier, not so airy. So I don't know if they were inspired by the mustiness in the air in Venice, because it does get hot and humid there. I don't necessarily think it's that fresh and airy, although I think it can be, because the one time I was in Venice, it was foggy, of course, but it was also New Year's Day. But I'm just thinking that this was not as airy as the other two fragrances, not as fluid. It is weightier. Those oriental notes kind of weigh the fragrance down. But maybe it's just an inspiration that has to do with Coco Chanel's time in Venice. I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad fragrance. For example, let's say I've never smelled a lot of fragrances. I'm just like somebody that's just lightly into the idea of wearing fragrance, and I come across this and I'd be like, okay, that's a great fragrance. I like warm notes. I might take that one. But for me, being having access to so many fragrances, these just don't break any ground. They're definitely Chanel. They have that Chanel touch, Chanel DNA, but these are definitely definitely unisex, really unisex. And someone that's like more into freshies is gonna like Deauville and Biarritz, but someone that likes warmer fragrances is going to like Venice. And I think that article was sort of true about this being more feminine leaning. They're thinking the average male might think this might be too much vanilla and gourmandy oriental type notes. They were kind of shy away from that. I think that's what they were referring. One other thing I want to mention, then I'll wrap up this review, guys. Recently I did that video about somebody accusing me of buying subscribers, and I mentioned in there was a French company with the letter C. It's definitely not Chanel, so that's another clue for you if you've been watching my videos. So this has nothing to do with Chanel. That video had nothing to do with Chanel, but I hear your comments about Chanel and the whole, I don't want to get more into it, but you know what I'm talking about. But that video had nothing to do with Chanel, so now you have another clue as to who it might be. If you think you know, we'll go back to that video and put a comment down. But let's get back to this review. Again, I like these. I'm glad I have them, but will I be using a lot of them? No, but they are definitely pleasant. I like them, especially Biarritz. Again, this has been done many times before. I've worn these fragrances from other brands or other companies, but now Chanel has them, and so that they can make more money off of us if we end up liking some of these fragrances, I guess. That's just my opinion on these fragrances, and there you have it. That's my review for these 3 fragrances. Again, if you're new in fragrances and you're just starting out and these come off really great to you, then pick them up by all means. I think the price point is pretty good. It's not too expensive, plus you get a little more juice then, you get 20 mils more than 100 mils, so the price point is nice, although then you also have the fact that they are Eau De Toilette, so they're not gonna last as long, but they are meant to be just sprayed a lot more. So there you go. Let me know what your thoughts are on these new Chanel Les Eaux collection fragrances, Paris-Deauville, Paris-Biarritz, and Paris-Venise. And if you want to participate in that giveaway, I've got 3 of these samples. I specifically asked the Chanel boutique to make them. As I said, I'm going to give these away as gifts. So they do have the little Chanel logo on top, as you can see. So just let me know what your favorite Chanel fragrance is, and also let me know what you like about these 3 fragrances. And also let me know, will you be interested in picking these up? Please put that down, and please put your state. This is a USA giveaway. Apparently, Chanel said that these are very fragile and they break pretty easily, so I don't want to send them too far. And the juice is how much they filled in here, so that's what you'll be getting. They are labeled, so you'll know which one is which. Do that, and also guys, let me know if you have any questions or comments. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.